The year is 1335 BCE, and Hittite soldiers drag Egyptian prisoners through the gates of Hattusa. King Suppiluliuma I watches from his palace walls as the captives stumble forward, their skin covered in weeping sores. He knows exactly what he has done. Those prisoners carry death itself, and he released them deliberately into Egyptian territory weeks ago. Now his own troops bring the plague home. "20 years earlier, Suppiluliuma inherits a Hittite Empire, struggling against powerful neighbors. Egypt controls the wealthy Syrian coast. The Mitanni kingdom threatens his eastern borders. Rival princes plot against his throne in Hattusa, the mountain capital carved into the rocky highlands of central Anatolia. Suppiluliuma understands that conventional warfare alone cannot secure his empire's survival. He needs advantages his enemies cannot match. His scribes record everything on clay tablets, pressing cuneiform symbols into wet clay that will preserve his decisions for 3,000 years. These archives reveal a ruler obsessed with intelligence gathering, diplomatic manipulation, and unconventional tactics. Egyptian records from this period describe a mysterious sickness spreading through their Syrian garrisons. Hittite tablets mention prisoners taken during border raids, prisoners who carry visible signs of disease. Suppiluliuma orders these sick captives released back toward Egyptian lines rather than executed or enslaved. By 1330 BCE, Suppiluliuma's biological strategy produces devastating results. Egyptian forces in Syria collapse as plague sweeps through their camps. The Hittite army marches into territories Egypt held for generations. Suppiluliuma captures the strategic city of Carchemish. He installs his sons as puppet kings across Syria. His empire now stretches from the Aegean Sea to the Euphrates River. Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten, consumed by religious reforms, fails to respond effectively. When Akhenaten dies, his young successor, Tutankhamun, inherits a crumbling military position. The Egyptian queen, possibly Tutankhamun's widow, sends Suppiluliuma an extraordinary letter. She begs him to send one of his sons to become her husband and rule Egypt. Suppiluliuma hesitates, suspecting a trap. He sends investigators to confirm the offer's authenticity. Months pass. Finally convinced, he dispatches his son Zannanza toward Egypt. Zannanza never arrives. Egyptian court factions, horrified at the prospect of a Hittite pharaoh, murder him at the border. Suppiluliuma responds with fury, launching massive raids into Egyptian-controlled Syria. His armies take thousands of prisoners. Those prisoners carry plague. Hittite soldiers develop fevers and lesions within weeks of returning home. The sickness spreads through military camps into civilian populations. Trade caravans carry infected travelers along routes connecting every major Hittite city. Suppiluliuma watches his greatest triumph transform into catastrophe. The plague reaches Hattusa's inner walls by 1322 BCE. Crown Prince Zannanza II, Suppiluliuma's designated heir, develops the characteristic sores. Priests perform desperate rituals, sacrificing animals and reciting prayers inscribed on tablets. Zannanza dies within days. Suppiluliuma himself falls ill shortly after burying his son. The king who conquered Syria, who humiliated Egypt, who created history's first documented biological weapon, lies dying from his own creation. His remaining son, Mursili, never trained for kingship, watches physicians apply useless poultices to his father's ravaged skin. Suppiluliuma dies in 1322 BCE, approximately 13 years after first releasing infected prisoners against Egypt. Mursili II inherits an empire in collapse. Plague kills approximately half the Hittite population over the following decade. Enemy kingdoms sense weakness and attack from every direction. The young king spends his first years fighting defensive wars while burying thousands. He eventually composes texts now called the Plague Prayers, addressing the storm god and demanding answers. Why does this suffering continue? Mursili investigates old tablets and interviews surviving officials. He reaches a conclusion recorded in his own words. His father brought enemy prisoners into Hittite lands, and those prisoners carried the plague that now destroys his people. Mursili accepts his father's guilt and begs the gods for forgiveness on behalf of the entire kingdom. Those clay tablets, excavated from Hattusa's ruins in 1906, provide humanity's first documented account of biological warfare and its consequences. They reveal something Suppiluliuma never considered. Disease recognizes no flags, respects no borders, obeys no kings. The weapon that destroyed his enemies traveled home along the same roads his victorious armies marched. 3,300 years later, his story remains a warning written in clay, fired by time, waiting for anyone willing to read.